Jain, I'm Vishal Jain. I work as CFO for American Express India.
Hi, good morning. I am Prashant Jain. I am Managing Director for GE Power India Limited.
Hi, I'm Swati Jain. I'm currently Vice President Analytics at EXL Service.
I am Piyush Doshi, currently working as a director with Faering Capital, which is a private equity firm.
Jai Hind everybody. My name is Nipun Jain. I am President Taxation for Indiabuzz Group.
Hi, I'm Sonam. I'm a clinical nutritionist.
Hi, my name is Varun Jain. As of now, I'm working as an account director with LinkedIn.
A good mentor can help you coach on your personal style, how you should communicate, how you should interact with people, and how should you build your own personal brand.
What I feel it is really going to be a big thing for every mentor and mentee because they are getting a platform to disseminate the knowledge and experience.
With the young generations getting access to the accomplished mentors of the Jain society, it will really fulfill the dream of every Jain to be at top positions in different facets of society.
JITO mentorship program is all about connecting people to different perspectives, connecting people between aspiring Jain professionals with accomplished ones.
Where we are connecting professionals, either advisory professionals or corporate professionals, both accomplished and aspiring to learn and gain from each other.
I feel that JPF is an amazing opportunity to interact, to learn from the professionals who are a part of this community and understand the power of networking.
I think you all must enroll for this program. It's an excellent platform where you will get to learn so much, and it's like a give and take program.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Jai Jinendra. I am Jalal Jain, a co-team member of the JITO Mentorship Program. I would like to thank all of you on the behalf of JITO Professional Forum, JITO Jobs, and JITO Apex for joining us today in the second session of our Level Up series. The topic for today is how to find your dream job. As we begin all our programs, we would like to begin today's session with a small prayer. Wow, what a mesmerizing start to a morning. The Level Up series is being conducted by the mentors of JITO Mentorship Program. The JMP is one of the several initiatives of JITO Professional Forum. It is a pro bono initiative open for all Jain professionals. Now I would like to invite Mr. Prashant Jain, Vice Chairperson of JITO Professional Forum and Managing Director of GE Power, to give us an introduction of JITO and JPF. Prashant ji, over to you. You're muted, sir. Yes.
Jai Jinendra, very good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody. My pleasure to be with you all. I would like to quickly introduce JITO to you all.
JITO, just give me a minute, please. I'll just start the slides. 1 second.
Thank you.
One request before that, and that is this time we would just request everyone if they can just check whether the names against their own video or in the participant panel is correct. If by chance some people need to change, kindly do that. And just give me some technical issue here. I will get this.
Thank you, Sushma ji. You know, she always keeps us in check.
Yeah, 1 second. Just give me a thing. Something. Jalaj, can you try sharing this?
I can share.
Yeah, please. Just do that.
I hope you're able to see.
Yes. Thanks,
So
Vishal.
very good morning, Jai Jinendra, everyone. Very quickly about JITO. JITO is Jain International Trade Organization, and it's a very professional organization. There are three things, the core pillars that inspire me from JITO. One is education, empowerment, and seva. So this is a unique platform where the membership is fast growing with 14,000 plus members and 67 chapters, 9 zones spread across internationally worldwide. It's a very professional organization. Now, what inspires me is this is one platform across all Jains, Digambar, Shwetambar, all sects of Jains. And this is unlike any religious platform focused on education, empowerment, and seva. Just to talk about the transformation or transition of JITO, Jain used to be a trader community, manufacturing entrepreneurship community. As the demographic is changing towards more corporates and professionals, JITO has also embarked upon JITO Professional Forum and is also expanding to be a professional organization. For example, JITO has hired KPMG to support in this transition towards a more professional organization. So when we move towards JPF, the coming slide, the today's program is done via JPF, the JITO Professional Forum, which is targeted towards corporate professionals and practicing professionals like lawyers, architects, CAs, and doctors, etc. So JITO Professional Forum is targeted towards corporate and practicing professionals. One thing which I wanted to highlight is JITO is a very exclusive privileged group. The 14,000 odd members that you see as JITO across the world today in the international chapters are paid members. The minimum membership today to join JITO is 2 lakh rupees for a patron, or it goes up to 1.25, 1.5 crores plus. And this is a community which has come together by those paid membership in JITO to contribute to the society for education, empowerment, and seva for the development of all Jains. In JITO Professional Forum, however, recognizing the salaried and corporate professionals, the JPF has been created as a project. Ajay Boraji, who's on the line with us today, is the chairman, and we have a team managing the program. And JITO Professional Forum, we will talk about it soon. So JITO Professional Forum is a transition of JITO to JPF, and we are connecting 100,000 plus professionals worldwide who are in senior accomplished corporate professionals or practicing professionals like doctors worldwide or architects worldwide, and creating a community to learn and share from each other. So that's about JITO Professional Forum. Moving on to the next slide. There are several initiatives being taken by JITO. For example, knowledge sharing sessions like equity, or we had the Amul managing director address the group. We had, excuse me. So we have special programs which are moving on to the next slide, like the mentorship program, the level up program, the program like today, JPF iBox, where it's a video that is recording a special message, like it's more or less like TEDx. And so the idea is to bring across the network of JPF worldwide and share the best practices, knowledge, and experience from the best in class. Today's program is a part of the Level Up series, which is the mentors who are a part of the mentorship program. They come and contribute or share their knowledge. So that is the platform that we are looking at today. There is another interesting initiative, going to the next slide, which I would offer Vishal Bhai to talk about, is the JITO mentorship program, which is the program for today. Over to you, Jalaj and Vishal Bhai.
All right, Prashantji. Always happy to have you one of our first speakers. All right, so before we begin, I would like to, just talk a little about our program flow. I would like to inform the audience that our session today is a group mentorship session, which will be taken by our main speaker. It will be followed by a small introduction of JITO mentorship program and JITO jobs, post which we'll have a Q&A with our esteemed panel. You can put your questions in the chat box while the session is going on, and we'll pick up the relevant ones. Our formal program will end by 12:30, post which the team and mentors will still be live to answer remaining questions if you have any. And today's session is aimed at finding the right job that maximizes our potential. It has certainly been harder to get a desirable job during the pandemic. I know the most about it. This session will be taken by Mr. Piyush Doshi, who has been a passionate mentor and a strong supporter of the JITO mentorship program. He is currently a director at Faering Capital. He has 25 years of experience across management consulting, executive search, and private equity. He himself has worked for a top headhunting firm with Stuart. He was responsible for hiring top executives such as CEOs, CXOs. He has also worked for Booz Allen, BCG, and he is an alumnus of IIM Ahmedabad. Sushma ji, do we have the polls with us, or do I?
Aditi?
All right. So upon Piyush ji's request, we are conducting a short poll. We would like to know a little bit more about our audience before we begin. Maybe the poll is already on your screens, or I'm happy to read out the questions also.
I think we can just read the question and people can put on the chat.
Sure, Vishal. Firstly, I would like to, like everyone to put in how experienced they are professionally. Let's make this an interactive session. So if in the chat box, you could write how much experience you have, and, even our mentors who joined, they can also put in the years. Second, how satisfied are you with your current job? So, you really, I know everyone's name is there public, so, they might be a little scared, but you can just put somewhat dissatisfied, somewhat satisfied. So no one is, we don't really leak information. Don't worry. We won't report it to your boss. And then third question, what is the biggest challenge you have faced in the job search? And, I can give you an example. One of the biggest challenge that I face in my job search is how to approach a headhunter. Especially at junior level positions, we really don't know how to go about it. And getting a headhunter can make a huge difference. I'm sorry, there was a slight disturbance. So if everyone has, a lot of people can share their experience, you can talk about anything specific you would like to. So I think now that we have, quite a few responses, I think a lot of people are somewhat dissatisfied. So let's begin. Over to you, Piyush. I think, he's the right person to address all of that. And he can also make sense of the answers that we are getting in the chat box.
Thanks, Jalaj. I think people have given good responses here. The idea was to, can everybody hear me? Jalaj, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Okay, so thank you very much, Jai Jinendra, everyone. Always a pleasure to talk to young professionals, some experienced professionals as well on this forum. And I'm very happy to share my views. Beyond the introduction from Jalaj, I can say that, I am probably one of the better persons you can find to get advice on career, because I started in management consulting. I did headhunting. I'm now in private equity. So I'm still trying to figure out what's my dream job and what do I want to do. So no better person than me to tell you how to find your dream job. But jokes aside, I'll share a short presentation and which will guide the flow of this discussion. So I'm just going to share my screen.
Are you able to?
Yeah, 1 second. I'm just making sure. Yeah, is my screen visible?
Yes, sir. It is.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So our topic for today, as I was told, is how to find your dream job. I was given this responsibility for this session, so I started thinking about it.
Just I think the screen is coming a bit cut actually. If you can just make a full screen maybe, or
I am in full screen. Maybe I can use it.
Maybe remove the format background on the right side.
Vishal, we are able
Once
to
I
see
move,
it completely.
You're able to see. All right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Then go ahead.
Vishal, we are able to see it completely.
All right. Great.
Vishal,
Go
please
ahead.
go. Yeah.
Okay. So when Vishal and Jalaj requested me to talk on this topic, I started thinking about it, and I realized that actually, ये topic ही गलत है. This is a wrong topic. I think what is the right question to ask is not how to find your dream job, but how to become a dream employee. So I'll start with that. And if I only had 10 minutes to talk, I would only spend time talking about how do you become a dream employee. Because if you become a dream employee, then jobs will chase you. You will not need to chase jobs. So this is obviously a very vast topic around, how do you become a dream employee for any potential employer? But I have kind of distilled it down to 3 main buckets, which make you very valuable as a potential employee. Let me start with these things. Number 1 thing is relationships. I would request Vishalji to probably invite an expert and just talk about this. In terms of how do you build and nurture relationships through your life and career. As you look back in life, as you look back in career, you will realize that the single most important asset you have is the quality of people you know, and how well you know them. I mean, of course, this can be misunderstood. There was a person who came to me for advice when I was a Spencer Stuart, and we were chatting, and I told him that it's important for you to know a lot of people. Yeah, he said, I know a lot of people. I know all the business leaders and celebrities and so on. So I said, yeah, okay, but do they know you? So it's not just about who you have managed to collect business cards of or email IDs of. It's about which of those people think about you and think about you fondly. This is a long topic. How do you build and nurture those relationships? But suffice to say that it is not something you start doing when you're looking for a job. It is not something you start doing when you actually even start a job. It's something when you start doing when you are even in school. Some of the strongest, the best relationships you will build are with people who you go to school with. The beauty of it is that you don't know which of the persons you are today going to school with is going to become Steve Jobs, or Mukesh Ambani, or anybody else you want to think of. So you need to build and nurture those relationships right from your early days with a very selfless attitude. And that is the only way to build relationships, which eventually is the most important foundation of a long-term career. The process doesn't stop. Obviously, when you're working, it's about being nice to your colleagues, being able to have that mentality of plenty, mentality of giving, and so on and so forth. There are tactical things you can do to stay in touch with people, because there are so many people I meet, I have myself been guilty of saying that, lost touch with people. Very, very good relationships, used to hang out with, used to have good time, and haven't called them in a year. I mean, this is criminal. So if you want to do nothing else from this session, but just take away one thing, at the end of the session, go and make a list of those 20, 30, max 50 people who you believe were your good relationships. Don't look at it from a perspective of are they in position of power or big responsibility or in a position to help you today. Just make that list and then create a plan where how will you get in touch with them over the next 3 months, have a coffee with them, have a call with them, have a Zoom call with them. And that's kind of my number 1 piece of advice. Number 2 is expertise. This is where, you can, I'll just give an example. As a headhunter, I would often interview people and also in my other roles. A candidate would walk in, say, I have worked in auto industry for 10 years as a HR professional. Okay, I said, fine. So I would ask, okay, so give me your view on where is the electric vehicles business going? What is your view on the EV potential in India? You would be surprised how many people have worked in an industry for 5 years, 10 years, and do not have a point of view on their own industry. It's very important that when you're working on something, you actually become an expert at 1, 2, or 3 things. It could be an industry thing. So the industry you are working in, there is no excuse for not to know what is happening in that industry, what is the size of that industry, who are the competitors, where is it heading globally, and so on and so forth. Similarly, if you are a functional expert, you need to know what's happening as the latest in finance. What's digitization doing to finance? What are the latest trends in HR? So having some kind of deep expertise in terms of knowledge or skills is very critical. And that's something you need to build every day. And then finally is about branding. While your relationships and expertise help build some brand, there are positive and negative aspects of branding. And small things can matter in terms of like how you dress. So I remember during one of my appraisals when I was with Booz Allen in London, and a pretty senior person, and people were discussing appraisal, and little point came up that his shirt is always untucked from his trousers, the back, and isn't always wearing disabled shirt. Or somebody we were talking about, like hair is always in a bad shape. So these little things can create negative branding in terms of how you groom, responsiveness. Again, let me give an example. There is a friend from college, and I have never worked with him professionally, but somebody requested a reference on him from me, saying, this guy Prasanna, what do you think of him? While I have never worked with him professionally, not because he's a friend, I was able to say that, look, he is one of the most disciplined person you will ever find in your life. So, how was I able to say that? Simple thing. Every time I send a message to Prasanna, it could simply be a happy birthday message or a simple message, saying, Diwali greeting or something. It's never that his response has not come back within the same day, usually within the hour. And I asked him once, how do you manage to do that? Most people kind of are not that responsive. And he said that he has this habit that every person he meets during a day, every business card goes in his system before the end of the day. And he doesn't go to bed before clearing his inbox, whether it's WhatsApp messages or emails. And that has created that impression that, if you reach out to Prasanna, you get an answer, yes, no, or maybe. But he will never be unresponsive within a day. And that's just a small sign of how disciplined he is. And that small sign has created a brand Prasanna for me, which means that Prasanna is an extremely disciplined person. So if you're in a job today, you have to mind these little things which create your brand. How you dress, how responsive you are you usually late in responding? Are you always responsive on time? Are you able to keep delivery to promise, etc.? I think you are all aware of what are those little things. It's very important to build this brand in little ways, which eventually goes in ultimately giving you the opportunities when the time comes. So basically these collectively from a dream employee, you should have good set of relationships. You should have expertise in 1 or 2 or 3 things, whether it's industry, function, or a combination. And third is you should have a brand, and a positive brand. And of course, stay away from any negative brand. If you have done these things, you are already a dream employee. You are the kind of employee which every company, which every headhunter wants to recommend hire. Then you don't need to look for it. You just need to choose. So I'm just, going to pause on this point here. We can have further questions. There are a couple of other experts on the panel today. They can add to this element in terms of how do you build your own branding, your relationship and expertise in your job, and how does that actually help you find your dream job. But let me move to the more tactical question, which was the main agenda of today. So I'll just start with what defines a dream job. I think you should think about it for a moment. What is a dream job? Is it money? What maximizes money for you? Salary, compensation? Is it prestige, power, CEO this, CXO that? Or is it what gives you the best fit with your skills, abilities, and aptitude, which makes you happy? Now, if I did a poll like we just did here right now, I think the answer will be, most of you will say that it's the third one, fit with skills and aptitude. But if we look at in reality, and I look back during my campus, during my engineering college, after my MBA, and after Ahmedabad, it was not as if there was shortage of jobs. There were lots of good jobs. But 90% of the batch wanted to either do consulting or investment banking. And they would all have very good reason, convincing reason why that's the best thing to get into. But end of the day, they were either choosing based on which jobs were paying the most, or based on what their friends were choosing. Very few people were thinking hard about what is their own skill, what is their own strength. And I understand that if you're just graduating from college, you probably do not have as good a view of your own strength. But when you think about a dream job, I would first start by asking, define what is it that you are good at? Because your dream job cannot be something which you are not good at. It will be only a miserable job. So let me give a framework and some of the dimensions to think about here. This is what I call a self-assessment framework. There are frameworks available for you to determine if you're unsure about where do you fall on this framework. You can use some standard tests. Myers-Briggs is one. There are other tests which are available for you to discover yourself. But these are the broad categories. Are you an extrovert? Do you like to go out, people? One way to think about whether you are extrovert is when you meet people. The prospect of going to a party and meeting hundreds of people, does that energize you or does that drain you? If it drains you, it's an introvert. If you had a busy day at work, a tough day at work, and you feel that going to a party will actually recharge you, then you are an extrovert. So think about it, whether you are an extrovert or an introvert. Whether you are a big picture guy or a detail-oriented guy. One way to look at it is this way. It's like if I go to an event, and then if somebody asks me, how was that event? It's usually hard for me to describe it in beyond 1 or 2 sentences. I would say, yeah, good event. It was useful, but could have been better. If I ask the same question to my mom, she would remember who said what during the event and so on. So that's the detail orientation. It's the forest to the trees. I'm not saying one is good or bad, but certain jobs require ability to quickly look at big picture. Some jobs require extreme detail orientation. It's important for you to feel which side of this spectrum you are on. Then whether you are more of a creative person, think outside the box, or you're more of an analytical person, think step by step. Whether you are more of an optimist or a realist. Now, these are, if I look at very broad, and this is a broad generalization, if you are on the left side, broadly extrovert, big picture, creative and optimist, you are better suited for a sales, front office kind of job. And there are many types of job which broadly fall in that category. If you are more on the introvert, detail-oriented, analytical, and realist, you are more suited for an analyst, let's say equity analyst, back office kind of jobs. Now, as you progress through your career, as you become senior, you will always need to develop other skills. But it's a very useful framework to think about where are you on this spectrum, and therefore what type of job you will be best suited for. Because if your dream job falls on the wrong side of the spectrum, you might with some luck get it, but you will certainly not be happy in it. And a job you are not happy in can never be a dream job. It can only be a nightmare job. So don't take somebody else's dream job, which could be your nightmare job. So I'll kind of move on from this point here. We can talk in detail about what kind of jobs fall on the right hand side, and you can reflect on it, and we can talk more about it during the Q&A. Let me move to now more the tactical aspect. Let's assume that you have figured out what you are, and now you are looking to find that job. It could be that, for whatever reason, COVID, your company is in trouble, you need to look for another opportunity, you are just bored. There are 100 reasons why you could be looking for opportunity. The toughest part in the job search is getting those leads. Where are the jobs? Where are those opportunities? How do I get those leads? I have analyzed a large number of people who have gotten into jobs, good jobs, average jobs. And basically the leads opportunities generation falls into 3 broad categories. Number 1 is through network relationships. It's a known fact. If you do any research, you realize that if you take the campus placements out, about 70% of all jobs are filled through individual network relationships or references. If I look at my own self, I changed job 4 times, and each time it was through somebody who I had either known on college or known during the course of the work. That's how the lead came, and that's how the conversion happened. Couple of times I might have gotten approached by a headhunter, but it kind of never was satisfying. It was never a good fit. So because people who know you also know your strengths and weaknesses, and hence it's much easier to find the right fit through people who know you and who like you. So network and relationship is 70%. So if you are thinking today about finding the dream job, think back to the network relationship point I talked about earlier. 20%, if you, let's say, you have exhausted the relationships and you still need to go outside it, there is a 20% possibility of finding a job through a targeted approach. And I'll talk about it in more detail. And then headhunters, which frankly are overrated in terms of their ability to find jobs for you, is about 10% of the overall job market. So in terms of network relationships, how to go about it, right? One key advice from me on this point will be subtle. You need a job. One way is to go say, write to somebody, hey, I'm looking for a job. Can you help me find a place in your company, or can you help me refer to somebody? Do you know of something? That's one way. But if you want to do it, and especially for people who are slightly more senior, and I saw that there are several people who are 15 plus years of experience on this call. My advice to that group of people would be to take a more subtle approach. So, for example, if there is a person I know, a senior person who I used to work with, and I want that person to think about me for any potential opportunity in the company. The easy, lazy way is to just shoot an email saying, do you have a job and can you help me? Probably a subtle way is to kind of find a way if you can have a coffee with that person. And in the course of the conversation, you can talk about where your career is, and you can drop hints that, you are right now looking for opportunities. You could be open to opportunities. It could be posed as a question, for example, right? What do you think I should be doing? And if the person is smart and if he likes you, then they will pick up the hint and then they will approach you. And that improves your probability of both getting a job as well as your probability of your ability to negotiate after that. Second point, once you reach out to somebody senior in your network, or it could be anybody, your friend, and you haven't heard back, yes, you are within your right to follow up. But there is a fine line between following up and nagging. So, this is, again, how do you follow up? Email versus WhatsApp versus text message. Different people have different preferences. None of them are wrong. But what's the right frequency? You have to judge it rightly. And you have to follow up in a such a way that the other person doesn't feel that, I just need to block this person. So don't go out of your way to get blocked by nagging, because if actually there is an opportunity where they can help you, then usually they would want to. But yes, it's useful to be on their radar screen. But if you are trying to be on somebody's radar, find useful ways of being in radar. So for example, when I was in consulting or headhunting, I would have clients. Now, if I'm following up with client for a project or a lead opportunity, and if I want to just keep in touch with the client, one way is to say that, hey, I just want to meet you, and do you have any assignments for me? Another way to say is that, look, I read this interesting article in the paper about the energy sector, and I see that your company is getting into alternative energy. Well done for it. Congratulations. Let me know if I can help with it. Right? So think in terms of what is on their mind and find those little moments to get in touch. And then finally, make it easy for the person to help you. So let's say if you're looking for a reference, if you're looking for a job and you want a reference to somebody, then, one is to just shoot the CV to the person saying, I'm looking for a job. Can you help me find something? Other way is which is linked to my next point, is to actually do the research. I have looked at your network. For example, you can look on LinkedIn, you can find who's connected to whom you might know otherwise. You can say that, look, you might know somebody in this big companies. Is there any way you can make an introduction to me? Now the person doesn't have to think for himself that where can he introduce or he or she, as the case may be. You have done the job. You can actually not just identify where you are looking for introduction. You can actually write an introduction email for them, which describes your key strengths. Why should you be a good candidate for this, as opposed to letting that person write. They might still edit it, but it just makes it easy for the person to help you by identifying where you're looking for an introduction, by actually drafting an introduction mail and going beyond it. So that's what I would focus on in terms of effectively leveraging network and relationships. Second is a targeted approach, which is basically you exhausted network, you are approaching companies directly. You need to do the homework, right? Once again, when people would approach me for sometimes looking for advice, career advice, I would ask them, okay, tell me, what is the company where you would fit best? And so many people I would find haven't even thought about names of 10 companies, which are a combination of their expertise and interest, right? So doing that homework in terms of which company is best suited, where your skill will be useful, and having that list handy is the starting point. Then you can very systematically go about each one, where you can find a warm introduction, where you can write just to the HR a cold approach, or otherwise. It all depends on the situation. Second point, when you are doing this homework, when you're identifying these companies, put yourself in the company's shoes. I think it also links to my point around how to be a dream employer. So many people, would approach a company, approach a job, and they would want to talk about all the great things they have done. And half the time they would just want to talk about how desperately they need the job. But very few people actually think, what is the pain point of this company and how can you solve it? So if you're targeting a company, let's take a hypothetical example, right? If you're, for example, approaching a company for a marketing job, I don't think it would hurt you to actually think about that company's current situation in the market, let's say market share, their current advertising campaigns. There is always publicly available data. Now in the days of Google, there is nothing you can't find online. So you can do the homework in terms of what is this company facing today, and have then a point of view around what is it that. So without being arrogant, saying that no, you should do this or that, you can always subtly weave in a point of view while you're approaching the company, which interests the company, and then you come in later. So doing the homework, putting yourself in company shoes in terms of how you help solve a company's problem is much more useful than thinking how does a company solve your problem of finding a job. And then using LinkedIn, I won't spend time on. We had a full session on it last time, and I'm sure many of you joined and took a lot of lessons from it. But all I can say is that today LinkedIn is probably one of the most powerful tools for at least identifying the network and reconnecting or connecting with people. Let me spend some time on headhunters, given I've been one and I have some insights from there. So first thing about headhunters, right? One of the things which a lot of people don't realize when approaching headhunters is that they get paid to find people for jobs. So if I was hired by a company to find CEO, they are paying me to find the best possible CEO for them and not jobs for people. So the mental impression a lot of people have is that, headhunters are sitting out there with hundreds of jobs. And then as soon as you walk in, like they have something which kind of they can hand out to you and then you can go and interview. Not everybody, but a lot of people have that impression. There would be occasionally candidates, because a lot of people would approach Spencer Stuart, like, you'd get about, I would get about 20, 30 emails and CVs every week. And then people would write stuff like, okay, I sent you my CV last week. Is there any progress on it? I haven't heard back from you, right? Almost like, okay, and sometimes even going beyond that, okay, I have exclusively given you the responsibility of finding you a job for me. You haven't done anything in the month. Just realize that headhunters don't get paid by people to find jobs. They get paid by companies for finding right jobs. So if there is a good job which fits your profile, the headhunter will certainly acknowledge your profile and will do everything. But if your profile doesn't immediately match the requirement, they get lots of CVs and they will often ignore you. It doesn't mean that reaching out to headhunters is pointless. For at least with the good hunters, you will at least end up on their database, on their radar. And then when the right time comes, when maybe you are not even looking, out of the blue, you will get a call and then maybe you will or not. So I think having the right mindset is important. Second, treating them as relationships is important, because headhunters have a substantial role in influencing the client eventually. And so if my client has said that, okay, I want a person with 20 years of sales experience, 5 years of one, which should be in a CEO role, very clear brief, out of which most of it should be in the automotive industry, then it's very clear brief. And I find somebody and I recommend the client. But sometimes clients are just saying, I just want a good leader. Now, this is where a headhunter can recommend you or not recommend you, depending on how they view you. So sometimes headhunters would reach out to you looking for references, looking for suggestions of people, sometimes maybe just, building relationship. Many people at those times, when they are not looking for a job, would ignore the headhunter outreach. But when they need the job, there is no relationship. I remember one very senior HR head, I don't want to name him, very senior, he would be one of the top 5 HR heads in the country. Whenever I reached out to him, asking for suggestion for senior leadership, individual he would recommend, whether he had time or not, he would always respond with 2 or 3 suggestions. And that made sure that this HR head was always top of my head. And then eventually when I was looking for a very senior person, he was always top of my list because I knew this person as a responsive, well-connected person. So in that sense, I had a relationship, and I had a good view on him. And finally, every interaction with headhunter is also an interview because, as I said, they could recommend you. They have the ability to recommend you. So you need to build relationship with them like you would with company CEOs. And that's when, if they see an opportunity which could even be different from what you're doing today. I have seen, for example, in case of Bajaj Auto, when they were looking to hire their head of international business, the headhunter, I think Egon Zender did it. They recommended Rakesh Sharma, although he was working in a chemicals business. But they were just very impressed with him, and they recommended him as a great leader in an auto business, and he did a fantastic job building a $2 billion business for Bajaj Auto. So this is where the relationship helps. And now moving to very quick update on executive search. When there are 2 categories. So what we call the top 5 senior leadership firms. I use the acronym SHREC for it: Spencer, Stuart, Heidrick, Russell, Egon, and Conferry. These are usually good for CXO roles. And then there are a good number of middle to senior level search firms: Executive Access, Positive, Hunt Partners, ABC Consultants, Amrob, Gilbert Wheat. Some of them also do CXO roles, but many of them also do mid-level leadership roles. It's useful to have this map in mind, and wherever you can find, depending on which sector you are in, to have relationships, awareness within 3-4 of these, you might get a good lead from a headhunter. In the interest of time, I'll quickly move on from executive search firm. In the next step, once you have a lead, comes building the CV. A few quick tips. Layout matters, not the place to get very creative, because CVs have a particular layout which is generally followed. And when somebody looks at 10 CVs, 20 CVs, or hundreds of CVs for shortlisting, you want a particular piece of information in the right place. So I don't want to be scouting around, iska education kidhar hai, iska, where did he work in this company, and it's not in the right order, and so on and so forth, right? So you should follow pretty much, there are 3 or 4 standard types of layout. My recommendation is to generally follow the standard layout. Second is to be concise and concrete. No matter how much you have done in life, 5-page CV is usually a bad idea. 3 pages is just about pushing it. 2 to 3 page usually is in the right range. 1 is probably too little for experienced people. So it's important to get the key points across rather than writing your entire autobiography. Third thing, don't put your JD out there. I never want to see on a bio data what my job description was. Like as the head of finance, I was responsible for annual accounts and talking to bankers and filing tax returns. It's assumed that if you are head of finance, you are doing all this. That's not what I'm looking to read in the CV. If you are a lead technology head, there are certain things which are assumed you are responsible for. What one wants to see in the CV is what you have done and achieved in that role. Then use action words. It's a mindset thing, right? If you write, in this role, I did this, I was responsible for, those are action words, as opposed to using passive thing, right? That, I got involved in. So instead of using passive voice, use active voice, which shows that you were actually in the driver's seat and leadership position. Then use facts and figure. This is particularly important if you are in a sales kind of role or a leadership role. If you were in a sales role, and if in your CV you haven't mentioned that what was the kind of sales book you were responsible for, or more importantly, what kind of sales growth you were able to achieve, then if I'm reading the CV, my assumption would be that you probably didn't do much, or you are not able to grow sales, and hence you haven't put it. But I've realized that several people just shy away from putting those numbers, and that makes their CV less interesting. So using facts and figure to substantiate what you've done is extremely important. And then there is a fine line between taking creative liberty and lying. Everybody realizes that if you have had this much experience, you have worked on a project like on 20% basis, you would pretty much on your CV take credit for the entire project. But don't stretch it, because if there is nothing worse than getting caught out when grilled in detail about something you have on your CV. And actually, this was the interview technique which we always used. That we would pick something as an example, and then we would drill into detail. Okay, so what happened? What did you do? Tell me the specifics. How many days did it take? Who did you talk to? If you are lying about something which you were not really involved in, then you'll get caught out. And if then I still have doubt, I would ref check it. And if there is anything where I find that actually you mentioned something but not done something, then that's completely a no. So being honest is important. You should build in memorable icebreakers. That's one piece of advice which I got from my partners in London. They always said that they started any interview at the bottom of the CV. And if they found somebody, let's say, has run a marathon or, climbed a mountain, done Everest base camp trek, or won an international competition, that was a great starting point. Other than being a good starting point of conversation, it shows that you have an ability to focus your mind on something and achieve something which is distinctive. So for people who are relatively low experienced here and are looking to start out in career, this is one of the pieces of advice that, find something in your life which you can excel at outside of your work. Because when early in your career, all the CVs look the same and there is very little to distinguish, something you have done outside your work could very well distinguish you amongst the crowd. So, as I said, if you have run a marathon, if I look at 5 CVs and they're all like BTech degree and have done a couple of projects and that's it, but one of them has actually run a marathon or created and led a club. In one case, actually, I hired a person on IIT campus during interviews because he had started a company while being at IIT called Hello Intern. And that company didn't make much money. But of the various people we were interviewing, this was a person who had shown entrepreneurial streak while being at IIT. And that person actually had lower grades. And actually, he didn't do as well on case interview either. But for me, that entrepreneurial streak, along with his personality, was so impressive that he hired him. And it was one of the best hiring decisions I made. He did very well in the firm and he went on, did MBA in the US and is now, within 8 years, he became MD of a great private equity firm. So finding something which you are doing beyond your education and current job will be very useful, particularly early in the career. Very quickly, good and bad CV example. Example of bad CV. I worked for 5 years at Super Career Corporation as account manager, where my responsibilities included it's kind of sounds like a JD, as I mentioned earlier. Here is an example of a good CV. I worked for this year at this corporation, led executives overseas, so much turnover, achieved sales growth, bought 40 new accounts, increased market share. So this is a good distinction between example of bad and good CVs. And this is last point, cracking the interview. I think we are anyway running out of time. And I'm told that we are going to do a specific session on cracking the interview, probably the next session. So I won't take too much time, just very quick bullet points. Do the homework. Don't walk into a company without knowing the basic financials, their business, what's in the press about them. Seen again, so many people fail at it. They walk into an interview without just, even doing the basic homework. Dressing the part. Underdressing is bad. Overdressing is also bad. So I think in India, generally, I would say that these days, a full suit, except in financial services, a tie and a jacket is too much. Probably a shirt and jacket is better. Ties are actually all, increasingly redundant. So, but you have to, maybe if you are in doubt, you can ask around, you can ask the headhunter if there is a headhunter involved, but getting that dressing right is useful. Otherwise, sometimes you feel like, you walk into an interview and you feel that the person who's hiring you is sitting in a t-shirt and jeans, and you walk in with a full suit and, tie and things. And that's the first impression they have of you, that maybe culturally you wouldn't fit in, right? So it's important to think about it. Communicate with confidence. I can't overstress this point. But part of it is not coming across as needy. That's the only point I want to stress here. Have your elevator speech ready. If there is a question like, why should we hire you? You should have 2 or 3 points ready. In fact, you should have the key answers to the key questions which are likely to come up ready. But why should we hire you? Or most important question we will always ask you, especially if the person has not, what happens in an interview is most timely your interviewer would not have had time to go through your CV in detail. So they will get the CV 5 minutes before you walk in. And, they are reading the CV while you are in front of them. So they will just say, okay, tell me about you or walk me through your CV. And that is something you should be able to do very well within 5 minutes, highlighting your key achievements, key career points. It should not become a ramble which goes on for 30 minutes. You should also not run out of things to say in 2 minutes. So having that ready so that you can talk with confidence is a critical thing. Telling a narrative. While you're talking, if they say that, have you done, for example, in sales, right? That's very normal question to come up. Tell us about your experience in sales. One thing is to say that I led a sales team, XYZ, boring bullet point answer. A better response would be to have stories, 1 or 2. I was in this situation, this was what was happening, this is what I did. Telling a story. In fact, many companies nowadays use that approach to assess people, where you're able to tell a story about a certain achievement. So you should have that story ready with details. That would be very useful. And finally, clarity gets the job. Sometimes people want to be everything to everybody. If you feel that you haven't done something, just say that, sorry, I haven't done this, but happy to. I would rather have that answer than saying, yeah, I've done this, maybe this, that. Because if you're trying to lie and fuzz it around, you get caught. And then finally, avoid the trap of the question, do you want to ask me something? That's a question which will always get asked. And I'm just amazed that every candidate knows this question will get asked, but how many of them are not prepared for that question? You have to have a couple of genuine, intelligent questions ready, which will, one, show your curiosity, but also tell you something interesting about the company or the role. So many people just walk in, they think that, just give me the job, I'll figure out what the company does later on. So be very prepared for the question of, do you have a question for me? With 3 or 4 very interesting questions. And in the interest of time, I can't go through it, but there are kind of questions, otherwise we can talk about which are the right questions to ask, which will usually hit the nerve. I'll give one example, for example, right? What would success look like in this role in a year's time? So it's a way of asking, what are you expecting me? But if you can get into specific of that's a good question to ask. Another good question could be around the culture of the company, especially if you have heard about the culture and so on. So anyway, these are the points around cracking the interview. I'll just pause, in fact, stop here. I think this is the time we had planned for this talk from my side. Assuming there are some questions, I would also want the panelists to chip in now on these or other topics. So I'll pass it on to Jalaj and Sushma ji to take it over from here.
Thank you, Piyush ji, for such an insightful session. And, so I've also had that opportunity to, get a one-on-one mentorship with him. And when I got it, I got asked a very interesting question, when I'm interviewing, should I call that person sir or by name? And sir had very interesting insight. So, that is why one-on-one mentorship is quite interesting. And, JITO also provides that. So we have a JITO mentorship program. So I would like to now invite Mr. Vishal Jain, convener JITO mentorship program and CFO of American Express India, to give us introduction of our JITO mentorship program. And he'll also tell us how to become a part of it.
Sure. Can you judge everyone? Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Piyush ji. Such an insightful session. And hello, everyone. So in the next few minutes, I'll just give you a brief of the mentorship program. Some of you might have already seen it, so it's going to be a repeat. But for others, I do want to at least spend some time, because this does relate to the point what Piyush talked about. The first pillar in becoming a dream employee is your network or relationship, right? And after this, I'll also have Dinesh from JITO Jobs to spend few minutes. I think we will wrap in about 10 minutes, and then we will have a panel with such great speakers on for Q&A. So be ready with your questions. So let me just play this small video to begin with. Uh, Sorry, can you still see my screen, right?
Uh, Now we can.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Okay. So I think that video summed it up well. That there was a phrase that if you haven't been where you want to go, you may ask somebody who has been there before. Or other quote here is, mentoring is a brain to pick, an ear to listen, and a push in the right direction. And that's what we are trying to do in this program. As Piyush mentioned, maybe about 10% of the jobs are, let's say, found on the portal or through consultants, about 70% through relationship or network, 20% through targeted approach. And for that, having the right perspective, right relationship and network is very, very critical. And that's what we're trying to do in JITO mentorship program. It is a forum to provide one-to-one access to senior, accomplished Jain professionals all over the world uh, to ask questions. It could be very basic question in terms of, should I do CA or CPA? It could be a question around, should I be doing, should I be continuing with my job or quit my job? Should I transition to a startup or to a investment bank? Or I'm a woman, how do I make my career? So it could be whatever the questions are, and the intention is to provide perspectives by one-to-one mentoring. Okay. Now, there are many categories, what you see here, but in addition to that, there will be more. Like, I want to build my career in analytics. It's a in thing. What skills I need to have, what course I should do. So you have somebody from that background as one of our mentors, and you can get into a one-to-one discussion, right? So what we have is basically multiple forms of mentoring. It will be group mentoring or one-to-one mentoring for you to become part of it. Basically, in terms of our mentors, we have 36 of them right now. Our intention is to induct top 100 Jain professionals all over the world. As you see on this page, for example, you have someone like Mohit, who is from Times of India Group, with he is alumnus of Kellogg's, to Mukul Chaudhary at the bottom left. He's from Google. Jyoti Singhvi, who is going to take our next session in Level Up series, is MIT and Harvard alumni, and she will be taking a session on communication with confidence and how to ace an interview. And likewise, Pankaj, you see in the panel today, you will hear from him. Likewise, for example, we had Varun Jain, second person on the top right, who took the session on LinkedIn. He's a director in LinkedIn. And we have Prakhar from Amazon Pay, Aditya, who has got background in sourcing, procurement, business development from Visa and BCG. Prashant Sangvi at the bottom right, second from right. He's a supply chain expert. So if somebody wants to make career in logistics, supply chain management, he's a supply chain strategy expert from Accenture, right? Likewise, in fact, we have Rajesh Jain, who is from Lacoste. So somebody thinking about career in retail and how do you build your digital presence, online and offline presence. He's the person. Sachin Jain, he's a PepsiCo Senior Director HR from New York. Abhishek Sancheti, who is CEO of Morgan Stanley. And likewise, we have Amit from Kotak Mahindra, and likewise. In fact, Ranjan Jain, I think Ranjan is there from, he is joined from California. He is a director in Walt Disney in the space of technology. So thanks, Ranjan, for joining, and look forward to hear from you in coming sessions as well. So I think likewise the point, for example, here, Rajat Jain from McKinsey to Nilesh Jain at the bottom right, he's a health tech expert. Rahul, you will hear from him today. So the point is that this 36 mentors have signed up in the program. They have given their time to the program, and I'm thankful to them. And if any of you would like to have any guidance, any specific question you have, you can become part of the program, and you will get a chance for an hour discussion on a one-to-one basis, and up to you, half an hour, 1 hour, whatever, as one time. And if you want to continue, you can continue. But the point is that enough information is available on Google and all, but that is data. You have to have a context. You have to have inner side of working in top global corporations. You have to be targeted, and you have to be able to build your network. And that's what we are trying to do through JITO mentorship program. I would also remind everyone that it is not that, hey, these are very senior people, what would I speak about? I have to prepare. I think all these people are of Jain community. They are here to give and share their perspective. They also got benefited from others. So they all are very grounded. So don't worry about it. I think intention is that we are sharing perspectives with each other and learning and growing in the process. Okay. So far, we did about 38 sessions. We have about 88 mentees with a very broad background. Heard some fantastic testimonials, like one at the bottom right as a reference. And in the upcoming one, what we will also have is we will continue to have a monthly series called Level Up Series. So the next one is going to be from Jyoti Sangvi, as I mentioned, right? So for you to become part of JITO mentorship program, how do you do that? Step number one is become part of the LinkedIn group. And in fact, Jalaj, if you can post that link on the chat box, you can become part of that group so that you get to know regularly about the program. There is also going to be a JPF invitee WhatsApp group for each chapter. And I think that is going to be JITO chapter by chapter. You will become part of it. But either way, at least you can become a LinkedIn group member right away. And then through that, you get to know about mentors. You get to know regularly about the program, the Level Up series. And as and when you're ready to be a mentee, you fill a jot form and you select a mentor. And then we do the pairing. And then you start with that one-to-one dialogue through our platform. So when I say this mentoring.jito.org, when you go there, you will get to see profiles of all the mentors, the categories, the specialization they have. Just also a reminder that this platform is open to all Jain professionals all over the world. It is pro bono. There is no fee or charge for that. It is entirely for community by community. And that's what we're trying to do here. So do get benefit from this program is something I would say. Certainly the team here is very diverse by itself. Ajay Bora is a chairperson. He's a co-founder of, he's the founder of HDFC Credila. Prashant, you heard. Milind Shah, he's a director in JITO Professional Forum. And then you heard from Jalash Nipun. He's the president taxation in India Bulls. Sanyog Jain, he himself is a L&D expert for 30 plus years. Sushma, whose picture is not here, she has a very illustrious background with computer science from, I think, US, one of the very known universities, and Taru is a program manager. Okay, so that's about the mentoring program. I guess my reminder to everyone is become part of the LinkedIn group, and as and when you are ready, become a mentee. And again, I'll reiterate what Piyush mentioned. Job search is not just a science. It's not a copy cutter approach. It's not like you just go by a rule, right? It is also a science as well as an art. And you need to be thoughtful. You need to be differentiated. You need to build your network. You need to have context, and that's what we are trying to do through this program. Okay, with that, let me just take a pause and now invite Dinesh Jain from JITO Jobs for the next couple of minutes to talk about what this forum is about. Dinesh, over to you.
Thank you, Vishalji, and the fantastic session by Piyush ji, wherein you all got to know how to find a dream job. But where to find that dream? The answer is JITO Jobs. There is a large pool of well-educated, qualified, and competent people from our society who are looking for a job in a trustworthy, honorable environment, and then equally large pool of companies who are looking to hire such people. So only link missing was a platform where both could come together and fulfill each other's needs. And the problem, this unemployment problem, only got aggravated due to the COVID pandemic. Thus was born JITO Jobs, the biggest, I can say, humanitarian project of JITO to enable a large number of people who are without any job in the current scenario, or people who are looking to upskill and upgrade themselves to a better job, or people who are just looking to work in a better environment than their current employment. So at the same time, from the employer's point of view, JITO Jobs presents a valuable opportunity to all employers to hire qualified, dedicated, and trustworthy employees from a large database of job seekers. It wouldn't just give them a chance to strengthen their workforce efficiently, but also provide them a medium to show their humanitarian side by hiring people from our society and giving people a chance to lead a dignified life. Because respect can't be begged, it can only be earned. And we would enable people to do so by hiring them and giving them an opportunity to lead their life respectfully. And to achieve this objective, we have committed to ensure job placement of at least 10,000 Sadharmics through JITO Jobs. And to achieve this mammoth objective, we have created 14 e-tools, which covers the entire gamut of activities that we need to undertake to make this project successful. So I will not talk much in detail about the 14 e-tools because it it entirely covers the all the activities that we are going to take under JITO Jobs. But I would just say about a few important ones like the enrollment. So the enrollment of employees. Can we have the next slide, please? Yeah. So the enrollment of job seekers, the target audience is going to be the fresh graduates or the Sadharmic groups, who are looking for a support at the lower level. Then all the JITF graduates who are coming out of JITF and not joining the admin services. People who are looking to upgrade, people who are currently jobless, and various Jain organizations, Jain Sansthain, Jain trusts, where we have a large pool and large database of job seekers. How you can enroll on the JITO Jobs? We have a very robust portal and an app. It is, I can say it is one of the best in the industry, on par with the best in the industry. We also have some simplified way of enrolling Google Forms, and we are also working on a WhatsApp and SMS link where you can, just click on a link and fill up your basic information and enroll on the platform. Suppose there are a few people who are not tech savvy or who are not even competent enough to fill in the details through WhatsApp or portal, then we have the helpline number as well, where they can just call up the number and get themselves enrolled on the portal. We are also, casting our umbrella very wide when it comes to enrollment of employers, and our target audience is always, we will start with the low-hanging fruits first. So we have a lot of, high-profile company owners in our Apex team, zone team, chapter committee members, the JTF group, Shraman Arugayam, FCP and Patrons group, and other JITO groups. They can always enroll on the JITO jobs, and they can ask their HR department to do so, or they can do it themselves too on the portal or the app. Even they can call up the helpline number and get themselves enrolled on the platform. So I would like out here to enroll on jitojobs.org and take the benefit of such a robust platform. And those of us who are not job seekers are potential employers. All of us are potential employers. So would request you all to enroll on the portal and be a part of this massive transformational project of our society. So that's it from my side. Thank you so much. And thank you, Vishalji, once again.
Thank you. And over to you, Jalaj.
Yeah. Thank you, Vishalji and Dineshji. I'm sure our audience members, were quite curious about all the initiatives. So today, two of our valuable mentors will be joining us for the Q&A. So number one is Mr. Rahul Bothra ji. He is, in the business of delivering happiness, also known as Swiggy. He has over 20 years of domestic and international experience across emerging markets in consumer tech, agri commodities, FMCG, and information technology sectors. Number two is Mr. Pankaj Jain, Director Product Management for Office Suite at Microsoft. He is an alumnus of IIM Bangalore, University of California, San Diego, and University of Texas. So I can say he's a professional, like a student also. Interestingly, he runs the mentor circle at Microsoft. And Sushma ji has been kind enough to collate all the important questions for us. She'll be moderating the panel. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Right, let me just make sure I get Pankaj Jain's name correct. Otherwise, he's got an alias of Vishal. So here we go. And thank you, all of you. It's been a fantastic session so far. And we've got some curious questions coming up. However, let's get to know you all a little more. We've heard from Piyush ji, and now let's get to know Rahul and Pankaj. Dream job. And then, that very word sort of says, what is a dream job? Are there different perceptions about a dream job? When I think about what is a dream job, something I'm passionate about, something I would really like to do. And here it comes, the three idiots. That's what comes to my mind. They've been forced into a job by their parents and, not really what they wanted, but something that their parents wanted. So starting with you, Rahul. Swiggy, startups. What is a dream job, and has the definition of dream job changed from a government secure job to one in the MNC to a startup? Let's have a few minutes and let's get your thoughts on it.
Sure. Thank you for the invitation, and it's great to be here. I think when kind of look at what is a dream job, I often go back to this French term called raison d'être, which is really depicts what is your reason to be, and what are you made for. So if you answer that question to yourself, you will always have a certain milestone and a goal ahead in your life, and you will start making those little steps. You will be on an everyday basis making progress towards helping you achieve that goal. So from my background, as such, just a normal chartered accountant, again, living in the south of India, where, again, a good student, getting 90 plus, marks back in the 10th standard. And when I opted to take the commerce stream, my principal actually called in my parents that does he know what he's doing? Because, he could get a college, a science seat in the best of colleges in Bangalore. And why would he want to waste his career? And at that time, there weren't probably enough opportunities, around the whole finance field. But I think I was very clear, from early school days that this is a thing that excites me. Obviously, it helps that it's also in the blood, but in terms of the finance and the strategy, etc. So I think having that mindset of me wanting to do, certain, say, career choice very early on, and then making those choices carefully along my career. Now, whether it was joining a traditional, FMCG company like Britannia, where I really wanted to hone my business and operating skills before I get on to do more finance skills. So that was a very, I would think, choice, because I actually did a couple of years of Wipro before that, right? And I thought maybe I need to understand a lot of nuts and bolts in the business before I kind of get into my long-term vision. Post Britannia, where I worked for around 7-8 years, I actually went abroad. Again, the reason was that I wanted certain international experience. I think we learn a lot of hard and technical skills while working at in our day-to-day jobs. But I think the whole soft skills as leadership becomes so much more important. Your ability to work in diverse cultures, getting work done. Also, I think living outside was kind of an experience that I wanted for myself. And therefore, I did take this plunge to go out. I was out for 8 years. But then sometime, during that later period, I realized that I've always worked with large companies. I've always made large things larger. And I had this midlife career crisis. I said, can I really be part of a creation? Can I create something versus just being a good manager and a leader, making things larger? So towards that, I made this concerted effort. I was living in Singapore towards the latter part of my international stint. Very cozy escalator lifestyle, as I call it, because you can kind of get in a very comfortable that you have all these fancy designations and you are handling large international markets. But I think that whole phrase that I used, which is the raison d'être, that what I really wanted was always at the back of my mind. And I made certain concerted efforts around looking at if I need to create something, I need to start up or join an early stage startup where I can take the founder's vision to fruition along with that. So I think just being a little more mindful about your long-term career choices, making those efforts. Even when I joined Swiggy, I did actually a hunt around the international markets, and it wasn't kind of just happened out of the blue. So I took a good 18 months to zero down on the opportunity. I think even the diligence that you do. Because joining a startup is always a challenge. I mean, it's always a risk, and I think what you want to do is increase your chances of success by the diligence that go into it. Now, whether it is the idea, whether it is the founder, whether it is the team that you're going to work with, and your own understanding of what the future will hold. I think those are the choices that I kind of made, and that's where I landed up. I came back to the country. It's been 4 years now, and really excited to be part of this journey. And really making meaningful, I think, difference in all our lives over the last, specifically in 18 months, where we hear all the good stories about how we have helped as a product, as a service in the community that we are working, whether it is providing jobs to the delivery partners, whether it is taking care of the needy during this COVID period. I think it goes far and beyond just a commercial venture, and that really gives a lot of pride when you look back. So
Wow.
yes, that's how Sushma ji.
I mean, I can, even through this internet and connectivity, I can feel your passion. I mean, I think that's what dream job is all about. When you are really passionate about it, whatever it is. Few things I'm picking up when you're speaking and you shared all this. One is you had some clarity right in the beginning, okay, this is what, and somewhere every step was getting you closer to that dream job. And you seem to have enjoyed no matter what you did, whether it was Wipro or Swiggy or wherever you went, everything was getting you closer to this. And it takes us back to what was said in the main session by Piyush, right? That you build relationships, it has to be part of your personality, expertise, the branding, your self-branding. And I'm sure all that would have definitely been there. So thanks so much for sharing. There are some questions, just let's wait. And I would love to hear from Pankaj now. And you've had all this and you're right now a director at Microsoft. Now again, Microsoft and, startup, a big company, MNC, whatever it is, there are so many people, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, a lot of people have these aspirations of joining MNC. So what would your advice be? Okay, even if they land that dream job, how do you retain and be successful in these organizations?
Yep. First of all, Jain to everyone, and thanks for having me here. My apology in advance. I am on the road, and but I just love to connect everyone, so I'm taking this call. And if you hear noise, apology. So if I understood it right, Sushma ji, your question is around, hey, once you have the dream job, and if you are in corporate like Microsoft, how do you grow further, right? First of all, my advice I'll share my story a little bit so that people can connect and uh, see, when I joined, when I started, right, like many people have clarity, but I was among those, uh, you know, typical person who used to ask my hobby from my friend. I don't know, because I don't know, I never knew enough about myself. When I graduated, I was not aware of what is my passion. And as people say, dream job is about, I'll come to your question, but I just have to set some context. The dream job is about if your passion, your profession and your skill set, if these three things, match, then you are like a Sachin Tendulkar, right? But problem I see, and which I had, I don't know enough about myself. If you don't know enough, as I said, I don't even know what is my hobby. I'm asking my friend, what should I write in resume so that I can impress people? Then it's a very different journey. Then it is about at least have one goal in your mind. What is that you want to do? And don't shy. That goal for me, to be honest, just earn some money at the beginning. That's all. And I was clear at least about that I want to earn money. I want to have something which can give me a better salary in future. Now, I started from there, and then somehow I got into, and I was very clear what it will take to do this. So first thing which was very evident, that I need to have a proper education, even to get into such jobs which can give me high salary. So it was clear. Then I started working and then got into IIM and other places. So at least what I'm trying to say, that if you don't exactly know, don't worry that, hey, what is my passion and all. At least create some goal for yourself and then figure out the way how you will reach there. Whatever the prerequisite you have to do, there is no shortcut. So that's the first part. Now, once you get into this company, these companies are like ocean, right? You can easily get lost if you are not in the mainstream. So my suggestion to people to successful in these kind of companies are, or for that matter, in any of your profession, think about three things and consider this as a three concentric circles. The innermost circle is about your core skill. What is that you are building uniqueness, what you are bringing on the table as a unique value for that company, what you can do that many others can't do first. And that core skill has to align with company objective. For example, Microsoft, your core skill is to build products. But if your core skill is not matching with that, maybe it's not a company for you. So don't be so possessed about that brand, because that brand is not going to help you. So identify your core skill, ensure that it is matching with the core priorities of the company. So that's the innermost circle. The second circle is, when you are doing that job, you need a lot of tools to get your job done. And those tools can be software tools, those tools can be some soft skills that you have to build. All those things has to be done. The outermost circle, and where I believe many of us, either fail at the early career or get a struggle in the somewhere in the middle, is communication. It is so critical for every stage of your life. It doesn't matter how expert you are, if you can't communicate appropriately, and communication has its own definition. It's about listening rather than talking more. So I suggest everyone that you can build the inner two circle, but keep working on the communication skill. No matter which post you are at, which level you are at, it is the topmost skill that you required, and you must work on it. So that's my suggestion for all the folks here.
Thank you so much. I mean, I'm so insightful of, don't get caught in the glamour of the brand. I mean, that's one big takeaway, I think, for me. Definitely, it could be security or it could be the brand, whatever it is. But eventually, if you want to succeed and get your dream job, that's one of the things. And this is something that Piyush mentioned in his main session too. And I can tell you that I am passionate. You just touched a nerve with me. I do leadership coaching and training for corporates. And the first skill I keep telling them, communication. That's a universal thing. You have to learn communication skills, right? Thank you so much for all that, the insights that you shared just now. We'll just see and then invite people. We do have a little bit of time, which we will continue asking questions after we formally close the session at 12:30. So before we could do that, just one quick question to Piyush ji, because it's come up in the chat box. And there were 2 or 3 people who asked that. It was by Dhruva Jain and Karan Savla. And it was all about, even in the interview and the CV, if there is frequent domain changes or frequent job changes, how is it viewed in today's scenario?
Yeah, I think I'll give you a thumb rule. Basically, if you divide your total number of years of experience by number of changes, and if the answer is less than 4 or 5, then you are in the trouble zone. If its answer is less than 2, then you are in deep problem. Right? And so basically, your average tenures should be at least 4 to 5 years. You are allowed 1 or 2 quick changes. Everybody makes mistakes, but basically, what they say, that if I made 1 quick change, then the hirer can think that maybe the problem was with the company. But if you made 3 quick changes, then the problem is with you. So either you are not able to decide, or your expectation is too high, or you are not able to perform. Either way, I don't want you, because if 3 companies couldn't satisfy you, then I don't have a guarantee that I could, right? So it's basically it's very, very important. In fact, that was one of the points I did want to cover in my session. Hota kya hai ki, as we say, ki the dur ke dhol achhe lagte hain or whatever, right? So the neighbor's thing looks beautiful. Point is that when you get closer to a job, that's when you really realize what are all the issues in a job. Bahar se sare job bade achhe lagte hain, ye badi company hai, naam hai, MNC hai, good salaries. So you jump in, and then you realize everything that is wrong with it. And it takes at least a couple of years for you to overcome those obstacles, to get accepted, and then you start contributing from somewhere between 1.5 to 2 years onwards. So basically, if you have not spent at least 2 years, when I look at a CV, I say, this was a net negative in terms of value to the company. Company invested, and then you took the value and you went away. Either you did not have the persistence to fight the odds, stick around and make it work, or you were always looking for the next shiny thing, and either way you're too greedy. So yeah, that's broadly what it is. That avoid, bahar se acha lagega, but unless there is a very good reason why you should be changing, especially if you've not been in the current job and have demonstrated value, then it could be risky to change. Only the thing is that spending too long can also be a problem. If you have spent 15, 20 years in one company, and then you wake up and say ki nahi ab mujhe change karna hai, then of course the prospective employer can ask questions that, okay, you are, for example, you have spent all your life in an MNC, would you fit in an Indian company? Usually then an Indian company would have that question. I mean, we always used to face this,
right?
And vice versa. This person has always worked in a very large setup, established setup, jab sab kuch milta hai, when you need secretaries there to take care, will this person fit in a startup, right? Rahul would probably relate to it a little bit, although Swiggy is not that more, but aapko apna coffee bhi khud jaake jana padta hai, where somebody who's only worked in a large corporate will say ki yaar yahan pe to coffee bhi mujhe leke aani padti hai, wahan to mere table pe time se 4 baar aate din. These small things start to matter, and that's what causes cultural so there is that balance. Having 2 or 3 different type of experience certainly makes you richer, certainly makes your life richer, and you're fine, but don't do it too often.
Too often, yeah. Great, and there's a lovely thumb rule you've given us, with the equation. I mean, okay, how many years of experience, how many job changes, it's divide karo, dekh lo. Apna decide kar lo. Beautiful. So please just let's wait a little bit. I'm sure we're going to have very interesting conversations. However, being very mindful of time, I would just request Jalaj and Sayog to just take over. I put the Menti link in the chat box. Right. So, and then we can continue as people free to stay on and have chats.
Yes, so we would love to get your feedback to increase the value of our sessions in the future. So please check out the Mentor Meter link in your chat boxes and do fill it up. I also want to remind everyone that you can become a part of JITO mentorship program by becoming part of our LinkedIn group. There we'll be sharing all the updates about these sessions and also how to become a mentor. Again, we can again elaborate, and we can also share the jot form link which you have to fill to become a mentee. And I believe if someone could share the screen for Mentimeter.
Would you want to see it right now? Let's move on.
All right, sure.
Getting some fantastic insights, and we can always share. They're saying awesome, insightful, excellent, interesting.
Yes.
This is thought-provoking, progressive. I mean, fantastic feedback for all of us. Should keep going. Well processed. These are the type of statements coming up right here.
Yes.
Right.
Now I would like to invite Mr. Sanyog Jain, a co-team member of the JITO mentorship program, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Jalaj. COVID has reminded us that the most valuable thing that we have is time. Thank you for sharing your precious moments with us. It takes a whole village to raise a child, and it takes a big team to put a program like this together. There are a lot of people that we need to acknowledge. First and foremost, the Worry Group for sponsoring this and other JPF programs. Thank you to all the participants. And I want to remind that everything that we do it for you. I hope you got most out of this session. Our speakers and panelists, Piyush ji, Pankaj ji, and Rahul ji, for your insights. You have expanded our awareness. We see the doors where we used to see walls. I wish I could turn back the time. JITO jobs, together we can help a community go higher. Ajay ji, Milan ji, Prashant ji, Vishal ji, you have given us the true definition of dedication and excellence. Sushma ji, as always, you were smooth, as always, bringing out the best of our panelists. And every tall structure has a solid foundation. Our foundation includes Taru, Jalaj, Aditi, and many others. The program has officially ended, but we will stay back for another 20 minutes to answer any questions that you may have. So we are all here. Over to you.
We can even let participants ask directly now if you want.
Yes.
Rather than having to type. Sometimes it's easier for people to express.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely, sir. So we request people to keep themselves on mute so that you don't get disturbed. But anytime you have a question, okay, we would really love you to just raise your hand. And there is somebody, I'm sorry, somebody's raised their hand and that name has come up as Vishal Jain. If you would just either lower your hand or unmute yourself. Is there a question that you have?
Sandeep has typed the question here, which I can take.
Sure, please.
Yeah. In the meanwhile, I think maybe I can ask Piyush you, because I think you mentioned in your last session about a year back that best time to find a job is when you already have a job, right? So if you can just share that piece of insight more with the audience here, but that's very interesting one I found.
Yeah, I think the spirit of that question is basically that jab pyas lage tab kuah khodna is just exactly not advisable. It is a bit like that, right? So there are two kinds of situations also. By the way, even when you are in current job, one situation could be that, look, you are such a satisfied person that you come to a conclusion that you are in the best possible job in the whole world. You are a satisfied person, and therefore you're not looking. But I feel that for most people out there is always something which could be a better use of their skills, which could be a bigger challenge. And so my advice is always to keep eyes and ears open. Okay, as a headhunter, we used to find this thing that we would sometimes reach out to individuals and they say, or they would reach out, right? I am not looking right now. Or they would ask the question, should I be looking? Whenever somebody would ask me the question, should I be looking? So you should always be looking. It's like, that's almost like asking, should I keep my eyes open? It's only that your benchmark could be different. When you are in a job where you are doing well, you are satisfied, then obviously you will only consider something seriously, which raises the bar substantially, not marginally. And when you are actually, because of some unfortunate situation, then you would probably be a bit more open to things. But there is also an in-between situation, which I have seen people fall into a trap, which is that, they are let's say they have a bit of a blind side, they get blindsided. So they could see that appraisal theek nahi ja raha hai, but they try to comfort themselves ki, I'll be able to turn it around, and they try to hide like an ostrich. But if you feel ki somewhere you are not fitting, maybe your boss doesn't like you and it's not working out, then some people obviously start taking action at that time, but some people leave it too late. When then once you are then out of a job, and that links to one of the questions which came up, that what should one do? How do you handle that question break? That once you're out of the job, then particularly in India, and it's a very unfortunate thing because I looked at it outside India as well. Outside India, if you had a career break 6 months, you just trekked around, traveled around, it seemed normal. India, you could take a career break just to do trekking, traveling, or parenthood or whatever reason. But especially for men, it would be viewed by any potential employer as saying, something didn't work out, you lost your job, you got fired, and then you were trying to find it. And that kind of makes it slightly harder. And it certainly devalues you. So then the other employer thinks, yeah, isko to main kuch kam offer kar sakta hu and all that. So therefore, it's best that you avoid that situation and you see that, this is not going to work out, then you take timely action and find something before you have to. Now, the question of how do you handle that question of a break, there is no other way but to be honest about it. Because if you lie about it, then it will get caught out, right? Unfortunately for me, like I must have interviewed 1,000 candidates over 7 years. I was at Spencer Stuart, probably more. And so many people, it was quite obvious that they got fired, right? For whatever reason. And I don't even think it's a bad thing. Sometimes you get fired because you are not moving, company realizes you're not a good fit. You get fired from a job doesn't mean you are a bad person. It simply means that you are not a good fit for this job. But in India, people take this very personally and it's treated as a shame. So most people will not be honest about it, that they lost. So kya hota hai ki he will come and, candidate will come to the interview and they will say ki, okay, why did you move from here? And they'll say, I was looking for a change, it was not, I was not enjoying the company and I decided to part ways. But usually it was that the company told them, ki was next 3 months notice, you move on. But during the ref checks, especially for senior level, if you're doing your ref checks, it will get found out. Okay, sometimes it may not get found out, sometimes it won't even matter. But if it gets found out later and if you've been lying about it, then it's very bad. But if you're just honest that, this is a situation where, I know it's very hard to say, I got fired. So I understand you sugarcoating it and that's okay. But if there is a gap, you have to say, I lost my job for whatever reason. There was a redundancy, business was going through a tough time, I lost my job. Or it didn't work out with my boss and I had to leave. I think it's not bad so far as you're good for the next job.
Right. Thanks. Thank you so much for that answer. Right. Lovely. So it's okay, but I think the whole thing is integrity, honesty. I mean, whatever it is, let's just really lay it on the table. There are a few questions coming up here. And Dhruvya Jain has been asking repeatedly, and that this is, I think, in terms of the domain and switching roles. So I think, Rahul, if you would like to take that one. And Dhruvya, if you'd like to just unmute yourself and just ask your question directly. One request would be, there are a number of questions. So if we could just keep the answers and the questions short, that would really help to get many more questions and people's concerns answered. Dhruvya, would you like to ask the question? Okay.
Maybe we can unmute Dhruvya. Puneet.
There is one question which came up. I can give a very quick answer. Somebody said that 20 plus years in IT industry, does management course help grow in leadership role? And does a short-term certificate help? The answer is that if you are doing a short-term certificate or a management course like a part-time MBA to increase your skills, improve your skills, let's say if you are doing it to learn leadership skills, improve communication skills, learn marketing, learn digital marketing, then yes, it helps from that perspective that now you have better skills, so you will be able to do better. If you think that by doing a mini MBA you can suddenly change your career trajectory, then usually the answer is no. It's usually a bad investment from that perspective.
Okay, thank you so much for answering that. Mayank, I hope that answers your question. Moving right along to Yash, you had your hand up for some time. Would you just unmute and ask?
Yeah, hi. So it was a beautiful session. I thank for everyone for this. I just have a quick question. Like, if you were in the job for last 10 years and then you left it, and then you started your entrepreneurial journey for last 10 years, but some things didn't work out, and for some challenges, and you are still seeking for a career change again in the job. So, but you are not getting what you used to get in after 10 years of experience also. So there are basically two concerns related to that. The first of all, your abilities, your skills have fully changed from technical person. Now you have grown to a management person, which industry is seeking. So but you are means not hired for that role, and your current salary options are not being that much which you think should be. So should we go for these opportunities, or we should wait for some more time to go in this type of like? So that is my question.
Okay, sure. Maybe we'll just ask Pankaj ji, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, sure. I can make an attempt. I think the question is, hey, I have been in industry for 10 years now. My role has changed. Maybe I lost job and I want to get into the new role. Maybe I'm not getting what I'm supposed to get. Even my salary is low. So of course, it's a factor of so many things. I'm not getting into financial situations and other things, how desperate you need and all. But one thing you have to keep in mind is, stay relevant is so critical, right? If you are not relevant, no industry will take you. So the first challenge that you will have if you're out of job is how will you stay relevant? And it's very, very hard. Learning just on internet will not help. So it's a compromise, or it's a balance that you have to make between stay relevant versus still getting something that you are not actually think you deserve. So my suggestion is, in those cases, that unless it's a dramatic change in your salary, that's okay, as long as you are getting the things that you want to do. So first priority you should always give that, am I going to get to work something which I want to do? That should be your number one. And then of course salary matters. But eventually, if you are doing great job, all the companies that they compensate as you make progress there.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Is that answer your question, Yash?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the question. Yes, Puneet ji, could you just unmute and ask your question now?
Jai Jinendra, thank you so much for this opportunity, and it's a lovely webinar with very, very good content. Probably one of the best I have ever attended on JITO platforms. My question is twofold. There are situations, as Doshi ji mentioned, that situations change and you may have to leave, or you leave on your own, thinking that there is no future here. So how do we handle that situation, and what is the number of job changes people look at? How they are looked at if the person has changed jobs, so many jobs? Because I have been asked, I am on sales roles. I have been asked that you have everything is both the sides, right? If you are in sales role and you have changed multiple organizations, you are rich by experience and contacts. But at the same time, the question remains that you have changed so many jobs. So how do you handle that question?
Okay, so who would like to take that?
I can repeat briefly what you said broadly, and Rahul, if you want to add to it, or Pankaj for that matter. But yeah, we think, as I said, 3 to 4 years, in my view, is the minimum needed to actually settle into a job and demonstrate performance. Yes, there could be some sales job where you hit the ground running in year one, you have delivered great results, but usually aisa hota nahi hai. So I would say that if you have to find a way where in your CV, if you look back at your journey, 15 साल के बाद, 20 साल के बाद, you have to have at least 2 or 3 things which you can point to, where you joined the company, you integrated in the company wanted you, and you delivered concrete result. So far as you have done that, yes, if you can add on to it 2 or 3 different types, it's useful. But if it changes every 2 years, no matter what you say, at least if I am interviewing, I would believe ki, you were either not able to deliver. If I were to not give you the benefit, I'd say, I don't want to take the risk. It looks like you're not able to deliver, and therefore you kind of move on before you get fired. So basically that's the balance in my mind. 3-4-5 साल के minimum 2-3 chunks होना चाहिए.
Yeah, I will just add. Sorry, I'll just add something
Yes,
here. That you should have a really strong reason, right? While changes is good, but don't underestimate the value of network that you build while you are staying in the company, right? Imagine, right? If you, for example, let's say you are spending 5 years in a company. Now you have built a network. People have started trusting you. Trust is a huge factor, more than a talent, right? Culture is another important aspect. You have learned how to walk within the org. So don't underestimate those, because there's a fair possibility that you might be successful with the same talent and skill set and everything. There's a possibility that you may not be successful in the next company just because the working style and the culture is dramatically different. And I always take this as an example that people mostly who are successful in Microsoft most likely will fail in Amazon. And because the culture are dramatically different. The second thing is, as I said about networking, don't underestimate it. If you can call your boss and ping him and talk, knock his door, it's a huge value, because that gives you a lot of comfort. You may get right opportunity. So my suggestion is that if your company is doing well, you are learning what you are supposed to learn, and you are growing, think really, really hard why you want to change.
Yeah, and I would add to it that actually, for most people, it's an aspiration. They want to reach the top. They want to reach CXO, CEO role. It's easiest to do if you stick around in a company. It's very hard to get CEO role coming from outside, because only when you are in the company, two things happen, right? One, you have ability to work across functions. There are many companies which give you opportunity, which rotate you in functions. You know the culture of the company. Third thing which happens is that gradually people above you, they keep moving out, and you are the natural successor. So unless you are doing badly, you stick around. I've seen so many people. I've said, "Yeah, ye kaise CEO ban gaya, or ye kaise CXO ban gaya," but they just stuck around in their job through thick and thin. They didn't leave. While many more competent people, they just left at wrong time. And then, in the next company, it took them long time to settle in. Sometimes they didn't settle. So many people ruined their career by jumping out at the wrong time rather than sticking around. I'll say again, dur ke dhol achhe lagte hain, but it's the current reality. Unless there is a very compelling reason, for long-term career, building a career in terms of reaching the top, it's best to stick inside. Of course, there are advantages of moving out. Like I myself moved out a couple of times at wrong time from that perspective in terms of reaching seniority. But I value it because I know I was bored, and I valued the experience I got in different environment. It was more interesting. It gave me different exposure. So from that perspective, I value it. But it came at the cost of moving further in the organization where I could have.
Sure. Thanks so much. Okay, I think in the interest of time, we could, there are just two more we'll take, and then we could close. And I'm sure, we know our mentors are extremely generous. There are some questions which may be unanswered. We will check the chat box and respond via email, because we have everybody's email. I think that would be okay, right, Vishal?
Yeah, that's fine. I think Tripti has raised her hand, and so is Amit.
Yeah.
Maybe these are the last two we can take.
Last two, right.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you, team. So my question is to Piyush, sir, that how should we take consistency or change? Means, like personally, I have learning perspective. So I'm working since last 2.5 years, and now I'm seeing that I'm working on same engagement, same client. So I want to change in my company so that I can learn more about my area, and I can work upon different clients, different engagement, and with different set of people. So that will be like part of my improvement. So is it right decision, or how should I see my career further?
I think, different companies have different culture. For good companies, they usually give employees opportunity. So it's like, first thing you have to do is whatever you are doing, you have to be so good that they should feel that if opportunity nahi diya, so this person will leave, which will be a loss for the company. So you have to get to that negotiating position. If you are doing very well in the job and then feel that you want a bigger challenge, a slightly different challenge, learn, I think you should feel free to have an honest conversation with your HR or your boss, or a combination, probably your boss first and then involve HR, and say that, look, I am looking for a slightly bigger challenge. It could be in addition to what you're doing. It could be part-time. Gradually, you demonstrate that you can do it. and you kind of that way they gradually accept you in a new thing. I think 2.5 years is not too long a time. So sometimes also you need to temper that, right? When I had total of 5 years of experience. 1 saal, 2 saal bhi zyada lagta tha. Now when I look back with 25 years, sometimes you get unnecessarily patient. So patience is an underrated virtue in career. You repeat, because organization. See, think about it, right? From an organization perspective, see, it's like this. In a car assembly plant, the person who tightens the bolt on the wheels, right? He will feel कि यार मैं तो रोज bolt tight करता हूँ. What is my job satisfaction? For the company, he is the only person who can tighten 10 bolts in a minute. Anybody new will be only able to tighten 5 in a minute and for a long time. So it's always a tight balance. The company will want you to keep doing more and better of what you're doing. So one, you have to find first, you need to also look within and see that you can challenge yourself sometimes even in the current role. Are you able to, can you not find ways of doing what you are doing even better, even in a different way, right? Innovate and get better at it. And of course, every situation is different, so I cannot make a generic comment. I can happy to do one-on-one call with you to understand your specific situation. But if you are doing well, then you should feel confident to go and have a chat with your HR and manager and say that I want a different challenge. Usually they will honor. Of course, moving out of the company because they are not giving you a different challenge should be last resort.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Amit, would you like to just, Amit Ajmera, would you like to just unmute, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you for the insightful session. My question is to again the Piyush Bhaiya. This is regarding the mentoring the networking. So, the networking mentoring with the two kind of the people.
Amit, 1 second, your voice is not coming through very clearly. Could you just try again?
Now it is clear?
Better, yes, better, please.
It's mentoring the networking and the relationship with the two kind of the people. The one kind of the people whom you know, but not have, but you are not in the contact with them with the last few years. And the second kind of the people in which you know, but they don't know to you. So how to make the, first is how to start making the networking with the people who but you are not in contact with the last so many years. And the second is how to start networking with the people to whom you know, but they don't know. So how to, this is the grasp of the questions to you.
See, so I will start with first principle of networking and relationship building, right? Relationship ka fruit is like aam ka fruit, right? Uska पौधा 1 महीने पहले लगा के आप फ्रूट नहीं खा सकते हो. आपको उसको 10 साल का नर्चर करोगे तब जाके फ्रूट मिलेगा. 10 साल तो मिनिमम है, शायद ज्यादा भी लगेगा, right? It's not a धनिया का पौधा कि बीज लगाया और 1 महीने में धनिया रेडी हो जाएगा. So obviously relationships take long time, and therefore it has to be done with a nurturing, has to be done with a view कि इसमें मुझे कुछ नहीं मिलेगा. It's about you have to enjoy the process. You genuinely care for people. You say यार मैं अगर किसी को मुझे किसी के लिए कुछ करने में मैं कुछ करने की पोजीशन में हूं तो it's a privilege for me in life, and it would be unfortunate of me to not use that privilege to do something. So the point is of relationship is and networking is to ask what I can do for others rather than what others can do for me. So now coming to your specific point, people who you are not in touch with, how do you get in touch with? Think on those same lines. That is the easy one still relatively. Reach out to them. Just say thinking about you, ask them if you want to ask something, ask for something which is in harmless. Koi chota sa kuch advice. You can just find any excuse to reconnect. I mean, COVID ke zamane mein, it's good and bad. People are meeting less, but at the same time, they are more available to do calls. So, sabke paas that way time zyada hai. So you can do calls, and it's more normal to do calls. Pehle lagta tha ki yaar isko itna bhi time nahi ki ek coffee ke liye mil sake. Now you can just catch up with people on calls who are not there. So I think you should just feel free to pick up the phone, but always have 3 or 4 things to talk about. In this, obviously, if you have known them, you must have worked together in some company, you must have studied in the same college, you must have common people. Kuch bhi study about that person, what that person is doing, and just pick up the phone and talk. The more you talk to somebody, the more you will have things to talk about. So उसमें और कुछ नहीं है. I mean, you can't pick up the phones now after 5 years to somebody and say, यार एक help चाहिए. वो कभी नहीं workout करेगा. They will just then block you. Next time they will not pick up your call. Yes. So gradually revive it. For people who you don't know, that's a tough one. Usually it doesn't work out. it's a purely percentage game. But ठीक है, अगर और कोई चारा नहीं है तो the best one is to, if you can get a warm introduction, if you can find somebody who can introduce you to that person, because you need to
no, the people, the question was that but their person you don't know to you. So how to connect?
If that person doesn't know you, means it's like I know Amitabh Bachchan, but Amitabh Bachchan doesn't know me, right? So it's the same thing. So the only way Amitabh Bachchan is going to respond to me is if somebody really senior who knows Amitabh well introduces me. Otherwise, I can write to Amitabh Bachchan whatever, he will never respond.
Yes, I understand.
वो तो है ही. तो मतलब this cold reach out to people who don't know you will usually not work, unless that's the only thing. Unless you really feel that there is something you can do for them, which they could find interesting. And so basically, if I get 10, 20 sales emails offering something which can help with my business, 19 of those I ignore. But one of them, there may be something which I say कि यार maybe इससे बात करके देखना चाहिए, and I talk. So you can try your luck, but then be sure कि 100 email भेजोगे तो 2 या 3 का response आएगा.
I understand.
So maybe Rahul, you can also share your perspective about networking in the organization. And
we shall hang on just a minute because there is somebody who's waiting very eagerly for Rahul.
Sure.
Right, and in the next 5 minutes we will also close.
Sure.
Adding to what Piyush said, Amit, and to everyone here, if some of you missed Varun Jain's program last week, please go to the YouTube, check it out, because he's given tips on how to connect with people who don't know you and you would like to know via LinkedIn. So some very fantastic tips are there. Please check that video out. Okay, and Dhruvya, who was not able to speak and who was waiting for Rahul to answer, and that was in terms of the domain change. And Dhruvya, if you unmuted yourself, please speak now. Dhruvya, if you're not able to speak now, then we're going to move on. Then you can just try next time. Yeah, so Dhruvya,
maybe on the chat we can respond, otherwise to the email.
Sorry about it, we can't hear you. So just the very last question, or we got about
Nishant here.
Nishant waiting. Yes, Nishant. The very last question for today, right? Okay.
Yeah, sure. That's the first one. I have this question with Piyush ji. Hello.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I've been in the industry for about 15 years. I spent about a decade in India and about 5 years in Dubai. I returned back to India somewhere in early 19. And I set up my own boutique IB. Unfortunately, given the COVID situation and given whatever my luck, I have not been able to get enough success where it has been over the last 2 years. Now I contemplate getting back to corporate. I am very well connected on the LinkedIn as well. And of course, got more than 10, 12,000 connections. But apparently, all the CXOs all this while have been reaching out to them for my boutique IB. Now, is it advisable for me to reach out to them that I'm thinking back, getting back to corporate, and will this thing of open to work on LinkedIn, will that be looked down upon? Is that something which someone senior like me should do, so well connected? If you could just provide some tips on that.
Sure, Nishant. That's a great question, because one of the toughest things for senior people in job search is to handle the pride and the ego piece, right? And it's a good, I mean it in a good way. That you're a senior person, you have your pride. You don't want to be asking around, कि मुझे job चाहिए. You want people to reach out to you and chase you, right? I mean, whether it's dating or in job search, right? It's kind of, you want to.
Sure, and it's surely not, I mean, it's not all of ego, it's also somewhere where I've been all this while reaching out to them that I have my IB and I'm trying to help you with your M&A funding, debt and equity. And suddenly I tell them that, no, I'm still not getting the right success and I'm probably contemplating getting back. So it's like a catch-22 situation. So like,
no, so you have to see, you can't, you can't do this without doing this with some people. But I think of various people, I think this goes back to my point around homework, right? Not 90% of the people in the network you are reaching out for IB will be useless for you if you are looking for a job. So it is about, so two things, right? One is you look at two axes. One is which of these people are likely to have the right kind of opportunity in their network or in their company. And second, what is the strength of your relationship with this individual? So if your strength of relationship is high, plot it on a 2 by 2. If the strength of your relationship is good, like this is a person, if you call, picks up your call or calls you back. That's like a very quick thumb rule in terms of strength of your relationship. And second is, if you feel that this person is relatively senior, you can add some dimensions to it, that, a mature person, all of that. Then that's the kind of person you should pick up the phone. No point sending an LinkedIn thing, I'm looking for a job. Pick up the phone. If you're not able to pick up the phone and talk to the person, then chances are this person will not be able to help you. So think of those people who you can pick up the phone, talk to, and find those select right people, and then have the conversation with them. There you can have the conversation exactly as you explained your question here. If the person is sensible, they will understand. If they can help you, they will help you.
Sure, perfect. So just to conclude, I know we're running out of time. Just one thing here, so that if I'm reaching out to connections, so I mean, in my 15-year career, I've always been approached by headhunters, and though I do this 10% in your matrix, I've always been approached by headhunters to get my next move or whenever I've made a change. But over the last 2 years, since I've come back to India, maybe lots of people have lost jobs. So I generally feel that now senior level openings are only happening through relationships, and it's nothing to do with headhunters anymore. Is that the case? I mean, only networking and relationships work at senior levels, and people don't give you jobs on your merit, or maybe it's merit plus relationship. Secondly, just my other point, should I mention open to working on LinkedIn? Is that something I should not do? Just your perspective on that.
So I think I have been talking to headhunters, including my ex-colleagues at Spencer Stuart. The companies like Spencer Stuart are doing well in terms of their CXO level hiring. It is what it is, but there has been a sectoral shift, right? So some sectors are doing much better, and so businesses in those sectors is strong. Like pharma is doing very well. Technology is still doing strong. Some sectors are relatively weaker. But at the same time, I have also been in touch with some headhunters which are at middle level, and including one of my cousins, and he was telling me that business is down to less than half. So it is a bit of a mixed picture, right? That maybe at some sectors, some positions, it's okay, but some sectors are really hurting, and it's only getting filled through connects. Or actually, companies have eliminated the jobs because they don't need as many managers now. A lot of stuff is happening. People are learning new things, and they're worried. So what is happening in the market is a mixed picture. You will know, but at the same time, and we can connect separately. You can, if there may be 3 or 4 headhunters who reached out to you, but I can probably give you a mapping of 20 of them, and maybe you expand the network of headhunters who you get in touch with. Maybe they thought you are in Dubai, and that's why they are not. So it depends, right? So but there is no downside in getting in touch with them and making them aware that right now you're back and you're looking. Because also, if somebody is seen as an entrepreneur on LinkedIn, right, then headhunters think, yeah, time waste is, ko main kyun approach karu job ke liye? They also, right, they can only approach so many people. Every approach is a time investment. So they only want to approach people where they feel there will be decent return. So there are these little things. I think the question of whether you say that open for a job, update kare ke nahi, especially if you are an entrepreneur, I think it's useful.
So let's, I think, Sushma ji, yeah, go ahead.
Right. Let's get some final comments. What do you say, Vishal?
No, very insightful session for sure. And whether we are at senior level, middle level, starting out, this is a very pertinent session for everyone. And yeah, it's a continued reinforcement of some of the principles what Piyush and Pankaj, Rahul mentioned. Would love to hear from Rahul and Pankaj as well. Final thoughts from you, Rahul.
Sure. So I think I'll probably end with Piyush ji's first comment, that don't try to search for the dream job, but become a dream employee, right? That functional mastery of whatever you do is the most important thing. I mean, apart from obviously getting all the right ingredients mixed, right? Ultimately, you have to think yourself as a product which has to be well marketed. Obviously, the functional benefits have to be really good, but it also has to be marketed well. But do not, the functional mastery that comes, which is really the benefits that accrue from consuming that product or service, is going to be the heart of everything that happens around it. So do invest, a lot of time, effort, energy in doing and being the best of your version, including, the things around how do you also tap your networks, right? So do not assume that you know everything. Do reach out to similar, peers in other industries, similar industries, to enhance your overall knowledge and be the best version of yourself. That is the real mantra for growth and success.
Sure, and on that point, I may also say that Rahul, Pankaj, Piyush are also mentors in the program. So if you want to really have more specific dialogue, I'm sure they will be willing to spend time with you. But Pankaj, over to you.
No, I'll just say in 2 lines, definitely do what you love, but till then you love what you are doing. So, and just learn, and learn. That's all from my side.
That's great. That's great. Excellent. Sushma ji.
What a lovely takeaway. Do what you love, but love what you're doing in the meantime. I think that's
a good quote.
Beautiful, Pankaj. Absolutely fabulous. And the very fact, I'm so heartened and I'm so encouraged by the number of people who continue to stay on, even after the formal closure, which shows what fantastic interest there is in this topic. And I'm sure we could go on for days. And dil mange more. So JITO mentorship team, I mean, we've got to do it, right? Dil mange more, more. Every month, let's keep getting together, helping each other grow and continue loving what we do.
So just on that point, I think, Sushma ji, as you mentioned, because today we talked about how to find a dream job, but I think probably we discussed yesterday with mentors, all of us together, there should be a separate session around how do you grow in your career within the organization, because it is not always about changing the job, what you have and how do you grow. And that's a huge topic by itself. So we will put that session in. But the next session is going to be around communicating effectively by Jyoti Singhvi, including what do you keep in mind when you appear for an interview. That's a very tactical and very, very relevant session for everyone. So do look out for that. And I sent the invite LinkedIn group link on the chat box. You can become part of it so that you get to know regularly about the session and how do you become mentee as part of the program.
Super. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And then we look forward to everybody joining and continuing to help each other. And that's another thing that Piyush meant, what can I do for somebody else? Definitely it's a give and then take. So if you want to build relationships, it always starts with giving. So at this point, just another 2-3 minutes.
It's like a bank deposit. If you haven't deposited in the bank, you can't withdraw.
Yeah. RBA. EBA, RBA concept. So anybody else wants to just unmute and say hi to us or bye to us, whatever?
Hi, this is Jalal. I just want to say that, I really had a great time. I was observing throughout while answering. And, frankly, sometimes, your passion radiates. I mean, especially Rahul sir also. I could see it that, I mean, Piyush sir and everyone. But thank you. It was a great session, especially as a young student. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.